It's 6:30. We'll call Sawyer County Public Works meeting to order. Ask the clerk to call the roll.
Ron Kinsley,
Here.
Ed Peters,
Here.
Chris Rust,
Here.
oh, he's online.
Here.
Mark Elwick,
Yes.
Ryan Bissonette.
Here.
Maybe our volume's not up enough on this.
Next item is pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all.
Thank you. Now, number 4, certification compliance open meeting laws.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Now, Gary in his report said that he's done on January 6th. I've been on the board for, this will be my 20th year, and I've worked with a lot of good committee members. Mr. Hal Halwig was there, and Nate DeLong, Bob Bacinda, Mel Olson, Kathy McCoy, Dale Sleater, Tweed Schuman was out there for a while. And Gary always presented an educational meeting. We ended up with a meeting at usually an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. I thought that was exceptional. He always took time for us when we had questions. And I was very proud to be part of the organization that Gary was involved in. So at this time, I'm going to ask Terry to come up here.
I told you, we just got duped. Holy moly.
I didn't do anything.
I did it all because no one told me I couldn't. So we have a little something for Gary from this committee and the rest of the county board. Want to come up here, Gary?
You might drag his wife out by the ear.
I'm gonna tell him to dress up for the occasion, but then you know something was wrong.
How'd you get here?
Don't you worry
I
about it.
hitchhiked.
So we have a plaque. It says Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Thank you, Gary Gephardt, for 25 years of service of Sawyer County and 22 years as the highway commissioner. And they wrote 2022, and I kept thinking, I wonder if it should say 23, but I left it at 22. So that's a very nice plaque. Congratulations and thank you for everything you've done.
Since you haven't reported yet, you can't walk out.
I said, can I take your vehicle? Because we've got these 2 deer hanging and every time I pull out of the garage, the deer hit my mirror and then they have to get out and readjust the mirror. They get,
I didn't even fix that.
I said, can I take your vehicle? I don't have to deal with the deer. I said, you going anywhere tonight? She said, no.
Good work.
Oh, yeah.
I got saved the whole meeting.
Yeah. I'll let you know for it. You have to stay. No, you don't.
We gotta hear one of his reports.
I got things to do.
You want to take this one?
Well, when somebody wants to take a picture with you.
Yeah, just hang on to that.
What's that?
Hang on to that, please.
Yeah. Good job.
All right, thank you, folks. Number 5, the agenda. The agenda is set. Number 6, public comment. Linda?
Linda Zolmer, 902 Holly Hill Lane, Birchwood, and County Highway F, Edgewater property owner. And I do want to thank Gary. We've talked a lot over the years, and from a public perspective too, he's just been outstanding, and his staff as well. So thank you. My public comment tonight is on agenda item 11C for the ATV UTV ordinance. And I don't know whether you intend to act on it tonight, but I have 4 amendments that I would recommend, and in the marked up version, there was one specific regulation that was identified as standing out. I think it's helpful that like in section 202, you do include all your regulations. And that way people aren't having to look up statutes or administrative code. So whatever you have in there, please leave it. I believe LCO and several of the towns do have limited nighttime hours. I know it was a recommendation to take that out, but I think put it in and let's see if somebody has a suit. In section 4, possibly in section 4.01, I think language needs to be added that the recommendation of the Public Works Committee is a recommendation for approval or denial to the full county board, and the actual final decision is made by the county board. It is amending an ordinance. It is the practice in both Barron and Washburn counties. And then 2, this committee does not represent county highways in all of Sawyer County. So you may have a county board supervisor who's not able to vote for an area that they represent. And so I think that that needs to be added. Both because it's an ordinance and then you have someone voting. I was really disturbed listening to the Monday meeting of Economic Development and Extension, that just because people have public safety concerns or don't wish to allow ATVs, UTVs full access to all highways, that they're anti-ATV, UTV, and I don't think that's the case. And then maybe to add an item 4.07, that routes are not open until the signs are installed. I think just because something has been approved to be opened, it's not actually open until the signs are installed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Number 7, consider approval of the minutes of the previous meeting of November 9.
I'll motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Russ, second by Mr. Peters to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Hagberg gave us a report, a written report. Everybody had a chance to look it over. Any questions regarding that? Or any questions that you want to relay back to him? Hearing none, we'll move to number 9, Sawyer County Airport Report. Mr. Leslie?
Good evening, folks. Any questions on the report? Speak at the start.
Highlight it for us, please.
In the report, I talked about a runway project. Been a lot of people circling and around the airport recently, and that's going to be kind of the case here, and more often as we move forward with the project, because this runway project's a pretty big deal. We're gonna have kind of contractors all over around the airport getting prepared for it. We still got a couple big ticket items that we need to get the engineering sorted out for. One of the big ones is basically redoing the electrical feeds for the airport where they're going to, because we're going to relocate the vault as part of this project. That's going to be a big undertaking to do. And the whole emphasis is to try to have as little interruption to service to everything as we can. So built into the project is probably going to be battery or generator backup feeds for time for the airfield lighting and for the terminal building and hangars, industrial side stuff that they're going to build into this project. At least that's what I'm pushing for, because we can't be shut down for a week. That doesn't work. Plus there's contractual agreements with all the lessee hangar owners at the airport as well, and from relocating the hubs for Xcel Energy when the airport gets fed to as part of the project. Yeah, so we're trying to sort those things out. Terminal building remodeling, and a long list of about 40 different things that we still have to do yet in the building, and pretty much all of them are just little things. It's just aesthetics, painting, little trim pieces here and there, and I'm excited to get underway with that project, hopefully getting done soon, so we can finally say we're done with the project. We had new signs. It's not in our report. We had new signs installed today around the airport. I worked with Andy in the budget and figured out ways money that we had from funds, sitting in there to get new signs. There's new signs in the terminal building that say welcome to Sawyer County, one on each side. We got some new signs for the gates, that just, signal people to pull up to the gate to activate opening. I've already had some people comment that, you know, it creates a security issue, but I have to remind everybody that the fence around the airport's not a security fence, it's a deer fence. That's the purpose of it. You know, we're not a secure airport like Minneapolis or something along those lines. We had some airport watch signs. There's some aviation programs out there for phone numbers that you could call. Instead of just calling 911, you could call into AOPA's program and actually talk to somebody who knows a thing or two about aviation. So people have a phone number to call. Sometimes people might be leery to call 911. But if there's a number available for them to call and ask somebody if something looks a little funky. So that there's new signs and that's recommended by the Bureau of Aeronautics and a lot of people who use the airport too. Other airports do it. So I put one right at the intersection of the T of, I probably should have talked to the town. Right at the intersection on the fence of the airport, hospital and airport road. Right there front and center next to the gate openings and on the terminal building as well. So excited to see that. We've been talking about the signs for a couple of years now, so I'm really happy that they're on.
Good.
We got snow again today. It's been snowing quite a bit this year already. Some years we have brown Christmases. It's not gonna happen this year.
Are they getting the runway cleared off?
Yeah, Thompson's, like today, I think Thompson's, I don't know if it was much more than an hour from start to finish to clear the runway. They have 3 machines out there. And the 3 machines, it's kind of more of a Tim department, a Tim question, but when they get it done 3 times as fast versus just one machine, theoretically, the cost should be similar. They get a new machine, Thompson's does that clears 25 or 25 feet wide at once, and that machine can do it fast.
No, do they, by having them on the runway, do they have to be stored out there or how?
No, we've dialed back, the state's dialed back on that too.
Okay,
It's,
because you used to have to be stored there.
yeah, and there still is, but you know, we're putting a lot of airports, the industry's changed. Now we're putting chemicals sometimes out there ourselves. And they're FAA approved chemicals, but you know, the percentages for 5,000 foot of runway by 100 foot wide, and you get a little bit, you know, discharge from one of the vehicles out there. It's not. That's pretty common at all the airports now.
Okay,
So, Andy and I spent some time talking on the budget things. We still got a couple big ticket items out there with upcoming projects in future years that we have to sort out, but the state has actually got us some schedules, not schedules, the state's got us some, Andy, help me out. State's got us some good numbers to move forward for budgeting, at least.
Yeah, the capital,
yeah.
they provided us a capital improvement plan that was not so much in 2023, so there wasn't much in the budget. It really kicks in 2024 with the runway project and the
Master plan.
master plan.
So anxious for the master plan project to start because we've done so much work at the airport. It's transformed and I'm ready to kind of start wrapping it all together and looking to the future. I toured this summer, I toured the Ironwood Airport. On Monday, I was up at the Hibbing Airport, kind of scoping things out up there too, trying to kind of educate myself because we're consistently moving forward, not backwards in comparison to most of the other airports in the area. We're getting busier, everybody else is getting slower, meaning that we're expanding and adding and doing more things. So seeing how other people do it on a big scale like Ironwood and Hibbing. It's helpful for me to just kind of see what the industry is like and what practices people are doing. It's interesting because most of our traffic is tourism based. And that's not actually very common in the state of Wisconsin. You know, most of the state of Wisconsin jet traffic is business. That's what most of jet traffic is in the nation is business. We're just in a unique position. Arborvitae, same like us, Baraboo, Wisconsin Dells, you know, where we really are, it's the only reason people are coming here is, it's, yeah, cabins and lakes and not so much business.
Mr. Howie.
You still got, how's your partnership going with,
Great. Great, partnership's going great. Mom's doing good. That's, those two things kind of go hand in hand. They were, mom's doing all right. She had a health scare this spring, but my partner, I talk with him all the time. The lady who works in his office, who runs the business, is still doing all of her books and does all the books, all the financial reporting in Sawyer County. She's a real professional. That was kind of part of the deal too, was especially with me in my airport manager role too, I can only do so many things. And prior to, managing mom and dad's business, plus all the airport manager roles, plus doing payroll, and with the accounting schedules that we have in place now, it needs to be, things are a lot different now than when they were before. And there's a lot of risk too. I mean, we have to have the numbers dialed in. If the county ever decides to come through and audit the business, need to make sure everything's on the up and up. Because that's right into the contracts. The county can do that whenever they so choose.
That's right.
Well, if the accounting's done professionally and everything's done on, we do monthly reports, it's a lot easier for the county to feel comfortable too, because it costs the county to bring on somebody to do something like that.
And there's 3 hangar leases this year, Lynn,
I think that's
which will be coming in the future. Any other questions from Derek? Letter B, 2023 airport fee update.
This really stems from the fact that we're incurring additional expenses now, putting chemicals on the runway to try to clean the runway. We started doing that, I think, in 2019 for the first time. Each year we've done a little bit more and a little bit more. Now we've added to our capabilities, but the cost associated with it it's enormous. We did it once this year. There's a little bit of, back and forth as to whether we even should have or not. We put about half of a total day, well, a couple $1,000s at least worth of chemical down on the runway, and we were able to get airplanes in and out. That Thanksgiving time period, it snowed every day for 4 days, just a little bit. The change of seasons, I mean, that means that the concrete isn't, or the asphalt's not frozen yet. Like this time of the year, the asphalt's pretty well frozen. It snows, we can just peel it right off. Whereas if the ground's not frozen yet, it kind of melts and then freezes into ice. So the change of seasons is when it usually gets to be the worst, unless we have an ice event. Ron and Al, you guys will remember Tweed, you as well, when we were restructuring the FBO agreements before, there was a big emphasis on the user fees at the airport. I have those here for tonight, and I can tell you, we do have a process in place for capturing revenue from people who come and go one way or another. It's called the handling fee / landing fee. Under the old contract, L&L Aviation, there was no revenue share with the county. Now it's 50-50. So the first year, 2020, that amounted to $16,000, meaning Sawyer County got 8. Last year was $38,000, meaning the county got 19. And this year we're at 20 and 10 year to date. So the county is collecting revenue additional in the last 3.5 years that it hadn't ever before for flights coming and going. We've had discussions talking about some of the corporate operators, some of the corporate jets implementing just a straight up landing fee that's non-waivable. That is not something that's common in the industry, especially at airports that are our size. I'd be hard pressed to find one. What we get into is a conversation of the entities at the airport, what the goal is with the airport. There's various businesses at the airport. The 2 big ones, myself and Link, are out there. A lot of airports, you go up to the airport like Hibbing, they have about 10 different businesses operating in and out of that airport. So there's a lot more activities going on, and in our airport, trying to offset the costs of operating the airport. I guess that's kind of why you have an FBO there, to try to provide services to the public, and then revenue share back with the county. Implementing a landing fee at the airport for jets I'm assuming would probably require an ordinance. through Sawyer County to do such a thing. I can tell you, I'd have a lot of kickback from a lot of the people who come in and out, but that's not really my position to talk about. That's a board decision. But one of the things I've thought about, I just briefed Andy on it as well, is, you know, if we have the chemicals on hand and Sawyer County is prepared to use them, one of the things we could do is just have the FBO pay Sawyer County directly for the use of the chemicals, and the FBO then turn around and charge out the customer who requested them. Because if Sawyer County kind of starts picking and choosing customers and people who are using the airport and trying to decide when we're going to use chemicals based upon who's willing to pay for them, it kind of puts Sawyer County in a precarious position. We want the airport to be safe. We want the airport to be open as much as possible. Half the year, it's not really a concern. The other half of the year, it's winter and we have a short runway with airplanes coming and going that need safe runways, dry work, or not icy runways. But for us to do something like that, obviously, there's gonna have to be some discussions on it. We're gonna have to potentially alter some of our agreements, because I wouldn't charge out for a fee. I have to charge out double what I was paying Sawyer County for a fee just to break even, if I was giving Sawyer County back a percentage of what then I was charging out. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But I'd feel comfortable at least considering that, you know, through just the FBO paying for the service to Sawyer County is more of a pass through. So then it would just be the FBO making the decision on when to and when not to put chemicals down the runway. And then we would then charge back out the customer that requested it. Not sure if that's, we'd have to probably clear that with the state of Wisconsin too, the VOA, and talk about if that's even legal. But you know, same thing, you know, we're also considering getting a de-icing truck at the airport. And those two things kind of go hand in hand, de-icing the runway and de-icing airplanes. We have never de-iced airplanes at the airport, you know, on a regular basis. We've done it a few times over the years, but the cost of getting into that business is just enormous. And you know, we're talking about updating our spill prevention pollution plan at the airport. It's one of the things that has come up recently, and that'd be one of the things that was addressed in that, you know, is where we would do de-icing activities at the airport as well, for de-icing aircraft. There's a different type of chemicals than what we put on the runway. They're much more abrasive.
So which fees are we talking about of increasing?
Yeah, the short answer to what Derek's explaining is we're working on it.
Okay,
Potentially another fee. We have an agreement with the FBO now for the revenue sharing that he's created that's coming to us. I would honestly, Derek and I haven't had a chance to talk because I haven't had enough time to get with him. But the good thing is that we're coming at it from different directions and getting to the same point. So I've talked to the airports that I am knowledgeable about, and they're having another landing fee on top of the landing fee that Derek already has. As the FBO, like he either charges a landing fee or handling fee if they don't buy fuel. If they buy fuel, he gets the fuel sales and we get a percentage of that. It is very uncommon to have like another landing fee on top of that. But what we've done is created some expectations, because now we do have the capability to de-ice the runway or put the chemical down to limit the ice, or put the NAC down to create traction. So we have that capability, but it's very expensive. And so how do you recover that cost? I mean, we are getting some of the landing fees now, but like Derek said, it can be a couple $1,000s every time we lay that down. But we have maybe one corporate customer that comes in or out that knows that we can do it and might ask for that. And we have a corporate tenant that has indicated they would like to see that more often, but like Derek was saying at the beginning, we're tourism driven. Very busy airport when we're busy, especially for the seasonal, but we don't have like the corporate, like I've talked to New Richmond as an example. They put down these chemicals. It's just part of their budget, but they recover a lot of money from their other FBOs and corporate tenants that have big hangars that pay big lease fees. And they get a lot of additional fuel revenue there. The people that use our airport they buy fuel, but they don't have lease big hangars or agreements with us to provide us revenue that would offset this expense. They come and go and it's tough to figure out how to balance out the cost versus the revenue we're getting in. 'Cause I think the goal of the county is to limit our tax subsidy of the airport. So we don't have a solution yet. I think it's kind of on an ad hoc basis right now. Last year, there was a case where a tenant or a customer was willing to just pay the fee. So Derek assessed them a fee and they laid down the chemical, and that's probably, if it comes to that this season, we'll probably do the same thing.
Yes.
Oh, excuse me, who pays for that, FBO or the county?
Right now, we purchased the chemical and that we have on hand through the county budget.
And then Tim and his maintenance crew, they've got all the equipment for use out on the runway and applying that.
Oh, I had one more comment. I consider that a compliment, being called hell.
Oh, did I say that?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Somebody else got it.
Does Jack Links and their operation prefer that chemical, or are they the ones that use it?
Well, we had multiple flights the last time we used it on Thanksgiving week. One of the flights that was coming in and out was like.
Yeah.
And they probably wouldn't have been able to do their operation if we didn't put it down. At least not in the timeline of which, I mean, when we kind of green lit it, there was a little back and forth on whether or not we were gonna do it or not. You know, if they would have delayed their flight maybe 4 hours and let the sun come out, we would have sanded the runway, the conditions may have improved. But by using the $2,000 or $3,000 with the chemicals, we were able to get that runway in safe condition to hit their flight times for them to depart. We had 3 other operations that day, but there was an emphasis on a certain time for a certain airplane to leave. And we hit that time. When we got out there, we got it done. But I was interesting weather at Thanksgiving stretch, you know, and I ended up just getting approval from Andy. We talked about it between me and Tim and our corporate operator at the airport, and we just kind of, I did note on the airport closed that morning because it was icy. There was zero traction. It was a very thin layer of ice, but I mean, there was no traction underneath. I'm kind of weighing the options of, are we just gonna plow it, sand it, and then just wait, and hope for the sun to clear it out over the course of the day or days potentially.
Yeah.
You know, whereas in that case, you know, we had the opportunity to go out there, use the chemicals that we purchased, we never used before. This was the liquid de-icer. This is the first time we ever used it as well. So it's kind of a trial run for ourselves just to see how the stuff is gonna work. And it worked, but to the tune of over $2,000. You know, I tell you what, I told Tim this too. I mean, I think, you know, at the FBO, we had, you know, over 4 days, about $15,000 worth of sales that came in and out of the airport, you know, for that time stretch. You know, that's not $15,000 of profit. You know, it's not, you know, any money coming back to Sawyer County, but, you know, I can, on the other side of this too, I could say, you know, at the FBO, we've made a big investment into the airport too. We want the airport to be open as much as possible because that's how we make business work. There's airplanes flying in and out. I don't stand on top of mountains and scream that we need to keep the runway open at all costs at all times. Myself, because I understand it, most of the airport manager, and I have to report to you kind folks about a budget. But trying to find that middle ground. You know, trying to keep the runway open and doing it efficiently. The world's changed and the liabilities for Sawyer County for having jets land and take off on airports that don't necessarily have the best runway conditions. You know, Sawyer County, you know, dollar for dollar, the benefit of having the airport. I mean, our forefathers and everyone before us decided they wanted to have an airport. There's an airport just about every community you go to. They are an economic driver. You know, I can't tell you what the numbers and the math are, but they're a lot. You know, and part of having an airport is also having to deal with the wintertime expenses. So we've made huge strides in decreasing the operating budget at the airport for the county and the amount that's comes out of the levy. Essentially, we've made big improvements, and we're still working on it. I'm all about it.
Yeah, it's balancing expectations now because if you're like, let's use like Phillips as an example, they have a 5,000 foot runway too, but they, you know that if you're flying in and out of there, like if there's a big snowstorm, they're gonna start plowing in the morning and it might be noon when they get it open and all of their customers realize that this might not be able to fly in or out and they're not gonna put down chemical or knack there. Then their customers know that and that's the standard operating procedure here. Here it's a little different where I think we're getting some push from our corporate tenant as well as others that fly in or out that know we can do it. So they've raised their expectations as to what they expect from the airport. And I'm not sure if that's entirely fair, but the demands are changing. And it puts Derek in an awkward spot too, with having to tell people that they can't come in or out, or he's gotta go out there and test the traction on the runway or make a decision to close. And somebody has to get out for a business reason. It can be a little testy.
So as you guys work it out, we'll bring it back to the committee and we'll
Yep.
continue on.
Well, long term, it'll be discussing whether we actually want to implement a mandatory fee year round. Or if we want to start talking about considerations for altering contracts. For different language, to allow a pass-through potentially. But regardless, I mean, we have an ice storm, like today, we didn't have a problem. Next week we might. I think that we're in a good position with our budget and the chemicals that we have to be able to go after an ice event if we need to. And that's why we have it, but that's not ice. We can't do that forever moving forward, every year with our budget and what our goals are.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can we just make an adjustment to the one landing fee on every landing? I don't know if you put like a chemical line or something on there that says chemical fee, but it happens year round and it's a smaller adjustment than it would be just in the winter.
Yeah, that's what we've considered, because there's not as many landings in the wintertime, but to make it a year-round adjustment, I think that's maybe one of Derek's ideas is that, because he's the one that collects the landing fee as Hayward Aviation, or the fuel fee, that he can adjust that, and he can also buy the chemical from us and offset it that way rather than the county doing that. That's one of the things you just mentioned.
Well, my initial, yes, I'm pretty aggressive on the handling fees and landing fees operations. I kind of label them the same thing. My suggestion would be is we have a request that comes in to put the chemicals down. We know when the flight's coming, we say we're gonna do it, but then you're gonna end up paying Hayward Aviation whatever the cost was that we paid Sawyer County. And it probably wouldn't be for man and materials and time. It'd probably just be replacing the cost of chemical, period, to the county. There's ways to do that, but like I said, working through contracts might be interesting. I certainly don't want to incur any more lawyer fees. We've done enough of that in the last 5 years. But we're working on it. Well,
you guys keep working on it, bring it back. Yes,
This is going to require some sort of hearing or something in order to be able to get input from different people, and so we can have something to base our decision on, correct?
I'm not sure.
It'll have to go, either it'll be a hearing or we're gonna have to amend our contract with the FBO to do it, or we're gonna have to implement a fee on our own. Either one's gonna require a discussion here.
Sure. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I got a question. So I'm gonna take this into a little different perspective because I always get concerned, or put it this way, you woke me up when you're talking chemical applications. I can appreciate the whole situation you're in, but the question I have is this chemical de-ice, or, where does it go? You got the Namakagon River right there. Is there a potential for creating a negative environmental impact to the Namakagon?
good question.
well, that's what I was just discussing about updating our SPCC plan at the airport, our spill prevention pollution control plan. That's addressed as part of that document. The liquid de-ice that we're putting on the runway is pretty much universally used everywhere. Including airports like LaGuardia. I mean, the runway extends out into the river.
We need to find out more information for Mr. Bissonnette, so he can answer that question. That's a good question. And I have a question too, is do you have to have any licenses to put these down? Okay, good. So, but I'll probably have to get back to you, Mr. Bissonnette, to get that answer.
Thank you.
Tim would be able to talk about that because Tim's really up on. He's got all that SDSs, all the data sheets and all of it. And Tim would be the better person to ask. On
But
that.
it's a good question, and it's a concern of the community.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Moving forward, number 10, courtroom remodel update. And you want to handle that? please?
Sure, everything's moving along pretty good right now. Things are getting framed in the addition. We had to update today. There was no major changes to the no change orders that we had to take a look at. Timeline's the same. They're still planning to turn it over on March 10th. We went through with the furniture company last week before. Went through the order. That's placed, actually was set to arrive in January, and we told her she could slow it down and get it here closer to March because we don't need that all in hand. She was given an early date just to make sure it was ready. We went through all the signage that's going to go on, all the doors and navigation signs throughout the building. We had to make a couple decisions. I guess I didn't bring those with, but it's going to be called courtroom 1 and courtroom 2. There was, we talked to the judge and the district court office about whether they wanted it circuit court branch 1 or circuit court branch 2. But it's just courtroom 1, courtroom 2, because
Thing 1, thing 2.
things might switch back and forth. The conference room that's between the two buildings, we decided to call that the Kansas Street Conference Room. We need to get something ordered for the signage. It's right facing Kansas Street, so a couple of those decisions have been made. Hopefully everybody's all right with that.
I don't like it.
We decided if somebody wants to name it something else for the right amount of money, we'll give you naming rights. And I met with the judge for a little bit today and brought that up that we're at the point now we need to start thinking ahead a little bit. If they're going to turn it over us to March 10th, what's the court calendar look like? Because there's going to be a little bit of a few days of transition to move everything from courtroom 1 to courtroom 2, and that'll be a little sketchy as long as, the timeline is, they're on track, but it probably could slide a couple days because they want to start remodeling March 20th is what the schedule is on the construction schedule. So that's the current judge's office and chambers and the courtroom will all start getting worked on at that point. So we're at the point though of thinking of that. I have to get it to Lynn yet, but we're gonna have the opportunity for you guys to tour the expansion before the board meeting next week.
Okay,
So,
good.
so you can actually, when you go in there now, you can actually see what's happening because the walls are being framed. There's some sheetrock up. Things are more visible as to where things are going to be. Windows are going.
Andy, on budget and our contingency fund is holding up.
Yep, contingency fund is what, half down. There are some pending items, but nothing that's big ticket. So the budget wise, we're still in an okay spot.
They have their next meeting on the 21st then?
For the construction meeting, 2 weeks from today.
All right. Any other questions for Andy regarding the second courtroom? Hearing none for last time, I guess we're gonna say number 11, Mr. Garrigan. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Have any questions on the report? We got a few additions and starting at the top, I did meet with the DOT on December 5th. Pretty nice meeting, but the whole gist of the meeting was we are on what they call actual cost revision for our equipment. Madison is not happy that we're on it. They're gonna be having a celebration down there when I retire. I guess in a way, I'm kind of holding their feet to the fire. And what this actual cost means, when we operate our equipment, we sign an agreement that if we lose money working on the state, they have to reimburse us that dollar amount. If we make money, we reimburse them. Well, I had done the research of the records going back to like 2015, and I could see we're losing money subsidizing the state in a sense for equipment operations. So we signed it, the first year it was in effect was for 2021. We ended up losing for state operations $110,000. So people in Madison they have the wrong mindset. We're not making money off the DOT. They're just making Sawyer County whole. So they're all up in arms and, but I've been one step ahead of them the whole way. So I've got a good instruction manual, got our reports, everything set up for my successors, so hopefully keep an eye on that.
Gary,
Um,
your successor as a backbone?
I don't know who my successor is.
It's true, we don't.
Then I sent out our winter maintenance procedures and policies article I do every year to both the record and the Gazette. I don't know if they've come out in either paper yet. I haven't seen the papers. I had my year-end meeting with Andy and I reviewed some items with Andy that they weren't looking into at the highway department and they're just probably things you hear from every other department, wages. Big thing is our equipment replacement budget. We've been frozen at the same or stagnant for the same number of years. That money isn't buy anything anymore. It's gotta be increased, same with our construction budget going forward. And also, while this is my final commissioner's report to you guys, it won't be my final commissioner's report because I have to get my agenda and commissioner report to Lynn before I retire, because the deadline is prior to January 6th. And also on the lines, the next item on the agenda is the speed zone.
Yes,
And when we get into that, I'll address that at that point too.
okay. Yes,
Gary, is there any progress at all with the roundabout out at B&K?
No,
Is that kind of,
we're kind of waiting on that safety grant.
Okay.
And I don't know when I'm gonna make that award, if we're gonna get it or not.
do we know when that roughly is due, Gary, or will we hear from it?
I don't know. It's already been submitted.
Okay,
are you mentoring somebody, Gary?
No. No, I'm retiring, please.
You're gonna be missed.
My phone's gonna be off.
We know where you live.
okay,
So moving along on the agenda for the.
yes.
I don't have here, is it the
Letter B's, yeah, speed zone,
Okay.
yes.
So I received a request several months ago in the summer to look at extending the speed zone. And I agreed to Traffic Safety Commission and traffic safety got canceled. There were a number of things happened and I think there was, I don't know, but anyway, we didn't have a meeting that quarter. So this quarter I brought it for the Traffic Commission. And I don't have minutes here tonight, but I don't prepare the minutes. I haven't received them yet, but it was approved at Traffic Safety Commission to recommend to the Public Works Committee to extend the speed zone 1,100 feet. And I will tell you that I'm coming for you guys because last time I had a speed zone request, you guys turned it down, which I had no problem with, but I didn't want to spin my wheels preparing a resolution. But I think you guys will find some merit in this one. There are 2 campgrounds within this section of 1,100 feet. So if you look at that diagram, which is horrible, I don't know why double C didn't show up, but
Yeah.
It's like, where is this?
the landing resort is 25.
Okay.
As you start to go to the north, then it goes back up to 55. There is a lot of pedestrian travel on this section of highway with both the landing campground and Lake Chippewa campground. They're going towards the landing resort and while I'm not a big advocate of rural speed zones, you know, speed zone like this out in the middle of nowhere for enforcement, I think it would be a good thing for the committee to consider. So
And the speed's gonna go from what to what?
it's currently 25 up just past the landing resort, and then it goes to 55. We would extend that 25 for 1,100 feet.
Is that roughly right to where like the snowmobile trail?
No, way before that. This would be just past the Lake Chippewa campground entrance.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
So you gotta do a resolution then now?
So I'll prepare a resolution and I will get that to Lynn for, consideration at the next public works committee.
So do we need the motion for that?
I think just direction from you guys. If that's-
Okay.
You want it down to 25.
Yeah, just extend the existing 25 out.
Okay.
Seems like a common sense thing to do.
Yeah. Agree.
We use that? Common sense?
Moving on, letter C is the ordinance.
Okay, Andy. Okay, so I took some of the comments from last month's meeting. And speaking with the Alliance, they, and I, with, discussed it as a committee. February is a terrible time for them, they're still in the part of their snowmobile season. April works much better. So we're gonna go, we're backing both of that. We're backing the renewal date back to April, and then the two, open enrollments, whatever you wanna call them, April and September.
That's in section 401.
Yeah. And, also in talking with legal, Andy, because you had a meeting today with them. Right?
Yes. So. Just think, in section 401, change January to April and July to September. Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Okay, so make sure that. And then the other one is 403. Change that to
February to April.
February to April, okay. Okay, the changes, the other changes that we added since last month were based on the discussion here. In section 101, these are in the draft that was in the agenda, and what I handed out is just a unmarked up version of the same one that was in the packet. Under 101, the last 2 sentences were added to point out that this ordinance is applicable to county highways under jurisdiction of the county. ATV, UTV operators should be aware the townships may enact regulations applicable to town roads under their authority. And the Lac tribe may enact regulations applicable to roads and lands within the reservation boundaries. Because they have the rights to do that. We're not going to, we can't really incorporate those into our resolution, or our ordinance. But it's I guess an advisement to operators that need to be aware of where they're riding and what regulations might apply in those areas around those roads. So it's more of the advisement that we discussed last month. And then under section 2.02, item H. We already amended it to say no person under 12 may operate an ATV. No person under 16 may operate an ATV. We added language in there that says no person under 12 may operate an ATV unless specifically accepted under Wisconsin statutes 2333, 5A, 1A, and B. We went with including the statute rather than putting the statute language in case the statute is changed, then we don't have to update the ordinance. I can tell you that section 23, the exceptions to the age rule have to do with whether they're under supervision or if they're operating for a agriculture purpose. So if they have, if they have to run down from their house to the farm or bring the cattle back, or whatever, there's an exceptions to the age restrictions.
Also, if they're checking on beehives.
We'd have to go another step to determine what agriculture is, I suppose, but
We'll leave it at that.
we'll leave it at that. Exactly.
Chris Wendell told me. You can check beehives with that, Ron.
The other thing that Gary caught that I did not get updated in the ordinance that's in front of you is the 2 routes that were approved
Yeah.
last month.
The
Okay.
county road down from Badger Bay Lane, the Chapel Road and from Dorchester. The county road.
So this will be back on the agenda for next month.
It's up to you if you want to.
We can move it forward to the full board. I'm
Yeah.
looking at what Linda asked. And,
with the changes.
we can, if the committee wishes, they can approve it and get it to the board. And then if there's ever changes, that can be also be handled at the committee and then it goes to the board.
I did the,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have a point of discussion here.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I met with the tribal governing board today. I shared with them the draft ATV ordinance. And there was a lot of discussion. Now, overall, I don't think there's an objection to a lot of this stuff. But as you recall, in one of the previous meetings, or maybe it was a different committee. It seems like every committee I'm on this is addressed. But anyway, long story short, they are opposed to the road listing, the county roads listed as routes in the ATV until there's a discussion with them. And so they asked me to convey that and ask that we don't make a decision on that until we sit down with the county, the tribe sits down with the county and really discusses this wholeheartedly. Now, I was under the impression Jim Slender was talking to Gary. I don't know if that happened or not, but that's what the governing board asked me to convey tonight. So,
Okay. Do we know when they want to do that? I mean, Gary's gone and soon.
It was my understanding late last week they were trying to reach Kathy from the Alliance because they want to meet with her as well as she's been wanting to meet with them. I don't know that that's been set up through the chairman secretary yet or not, but I know that they're meeting with all the townships as well yet. So, and I know, well, I don't know, I mean, I guess there's a couple different ways to look at it. I mean, we could rush this through, but in reality, I mean, there's not going to be any ATV use anymore until springtime. So, well, I guess they could probably use them for ice fishing, but anyway, I could have the either. Well, Gary, you're there. Did Jim ever talk to you about this?
No, I was gonna say, that I'm gonna throw my other hat on too. Reached out on the town level. Reply to Jim was that Terry Miller was gonna be getting hold of us for scheduling, and I've not heard a word.
Brian, just a minute. How about Kathy? Have you had any contact?
I talked to Mr. Schlender at the last Public Works meeting last month. He gave me the number of Terry Miller to reach out. I called her, talked to her. She said to email the information to her, which I did. Didn't hear anything back. Called her again, left a message, didn't hear anything back. Emailed her, didn't hear anything back. Texted Mr. Schlender and asked him to help me facilitate a meeting. He said he would, but I haven't heard anything back. And now at Monday's economic development meeting, we asked you to help us facilitate a meeting, which you said you would, and I still haven't heard anything. So I'm dead in the water until I hear something. I'm willing to meet.
Okay, well, is Tweed there? I can't see.
Yep, I'm here, Brian.
So one way or the other, we'll set something up and get with you in short order, Kathy. I apologize, but I know Terry was trying to set something up with the council and you.
Guys, Brian, as far as the sections of designated routes that are in the ordinance, do they want to meet to go over each of the sections?
Yeah.
Existing routes that are already.
Just the ones within the reservation boundaries. Like I said, anything outside the reservation boundaries, I mean, there's no issues there.
And who do they want to discuss with? This committee? The board?
Mainly, I think, Mark, the townships and then Gary on his plan there. And not that they were against these routes, just that they wanted to be included on the decision. And I know it's been difficult to meet with them, but I know it's on. We've had emails to try to get everyone together to meet with these townships and Kathy. And like I said, not the, and this phrase that you added here, Gary, that the Lacutere and townships, you know, they can enact their own regulations applicable to roads and lands within their boundaries. That's huge.
That isn't my.
But we'll put that in there. That carries a lot of weight right there. So.
Should it say may enact though, or should it say has enacted up? Because the tribe already has its ordinance. You know, when you write may enact, it sounds like there really isn't nothing there though yet.
And
You know, it should say the Lacutere tribe has enacted regulations, because we already do have them.
Good point.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
Mr. Gephardt,
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest, Mr. Howard mentioned something. I don't think the meeting should be with me. I didn't approve any of these routes. And I see them on the, someone within the reservation were approved many years ago. Those were not, I don't, you know, I think it would be committee talking to council type of meeting.
should we put together ask our board chair to put together a subcommittee to meet with some kind of subcommittee of tribe? Would that be realistic or not?
Sure, well, it's mainly this is the committee of jurisdiction, right? Then I would invite this committee members to meet with them.
Okay, when?
We can do that. We're trying to set it up with Kathy and the townships. If we just get a representation of this committee to come,
What if, I'm throwing it out there for ideas.
Yep.
We have our regular meetings every month. Would they want to come and we could meet a half hour early, a half hour later after the meeting? Or you want, does the whole tribe, I'm just throwing out ideas, I don't know.
Yeah, I understand what you're doing. You're trying to make it happen.
no, those are good ideas. And of course, we would have Brian there, because he's our land management person. Probably Jason Weaver, you know, he's our road maintenance now, everybody knows him.
What's Mr. Ruska, Mr. Bissonnette think?
I can be there whenever everybody wants to be there.
Well, as soon as you said form a subcommittee, I knew what Tweed was gonna say, so I guess, Tweed being my boss, I guess
Yeah.
All right, then how about this? Just to keep things moving forward. We meet in January, we lose Gary by then. See if they put together that we could meet here a half hour early. Maybe we can't get it done in half an hour, but it certainly gives us a start. Would you be available, Kathy?
Yes.
Work on that. If it doesn't work in January, we'll work on February. How's that sound?
We'll get her done.
Sounds good.
So then that
Yeah.
would be a publicly noticed meeting,
Yeah.
and then you would need to get.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So we will arrange the meeting.
Yep, I will assist with that.
I got a feeling that half hour is not gonna do it.
I do too. I just throwing out an idea to start
I-
with. Maybe we should meet an hour and a half.
I'm thinking 6.
Right. Brian and Chris can help us set that up.
Yep.
I'd rather go earlier than later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would too, Chris.
I'm just trying to keep it the same night so we can get it done in one trip.
Yeah.
See what you can do and
Yeah.
let us know and let Lynn know so that she can get it published if we go that way.
Yeah.
Okay, and that, our next meeting is the 6th?
No, that's Gary's last day.
Oh, yeah.
Let me see here,
We're looking just a moment.
January 11th, does that sound right? That's what it looks like.
January 11th.
Okay,
See what you can do, see what you can do.
Yes. And Gary's still gonna be in the mix too, through down Hayward, his other half.
Well, we can drag Town of Hayward up here.
Yeah, unless I resign by then. Then under consideration.
All right, anything else we want to look at in the ordinance?
We're waiting for Terry Nolan.
I still I think, mentioned that time.
Oh.
You know, having a
Right here.
one, yeah,
Linda's looking at a time. She thinks you should have time in there.
yeah,
That's what you're relating to?
yes, exactly. So, kind of just,
Well, I don't want to put words in Gary's mouth, but I think we've looked at that a couple different places. Some of them, some ordinances had times and some didn't.
Yeah,
Right.
majority of them had no time restriction.
So it's not completely off the table, but
okay.
you all right with that?
Think about it. Works.
That will certainly come out, Mark, at one of those meetings, for sure.
And I know some of the things Linda had mentioned, I think you were taking notes.
Yeah.
In public comment. One of them is already in there though.
Yeah.
And that's the signage. has to be up
Mhm,
Yeah.
yeah,
before-
Yeah, I saw that.
before, so That's already been addressed, and that's a good point.
So when you hear something, Lynn, can you also make sure Kathy's abreast of?
Sure.
Mr. Russ, Mr. Bissonnette, you got any more?
thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item we have is letter D, which is session. You're gonna have Gary stay.
it's up to you. I don't, doesn't,
I'm not sure where you're gonna go, so I just for input, that's all. If he's willing to do so.
I must have a long,
See you later. Have a good night. folks.
agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You just picked one.
Yeah, yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, you look cute.
Someone want to make a motion
First of all, I've said that.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
pursuant Wisconsin statutes 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation for performance, evaluation data, and any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Halwig, second by Mr. Peters. Roll call vote.
Okay, the votes are open. Let's get our table orders done first, and then I'll call on our.
What are we voting on?
To go into closed session. we have to have it.
Oh, wow.
So go ahead and do your clickers, gentlemen, and then I'll call on Chris Rupp for you to vote.
Yep.
Brian,
Yes.
okay, we will close this.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, unanimous. We're out of closed session.
Are we adjourned?
Go.
We're still thinking.
We were opening the doors. Thank you for your patience. Number 12, feature agenda items. Well, we're gonna have the ordinance again.
Yep.
And the airport is gonna have stuff. And we're gonna have stuff from the highway because we know what's going on there. Anybody out there, anybody have anything else that they would like to bring and have on the committee meeting? You're certainly welcome to do so even during the month. If you think of something and you want to run past Lynn, Andy, or I, absolutely. I mean, we're open for ideas. So correspondence, other reports, hearing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you.